Hey, it's Josh from Unit 6. This is the track by track of our new album, Sucker Punch. So I guess fundamentally, like, we started making this record kind of like really when we were touring Night People. We started making songs for this record that we then didn't want to put on 6. So they ended up being on Sucker Punch. Finish What I Started is one of those songs. We did quite a lot of writing on the road. We wrote Kill the Mood whilst we were out in Los Angeles. Started What You're Doing Right Now without even knowing it when we were on tour in America as well. But really, like, we had probably about, I say, like, sort of 60, maybe 55% of the record done before we went to Thailand. And then, yeah, things just kind of came into play as they came into play, really. So Nice to Me, really, you know, for us is probably the best opening track we've had on an album. It's the one that we actually recorded this song at the end of the recording process in Thailand. Max had this like 90-second loop, which he just, when Max writes a song, and if he really believes in it, he will basically subliminally like melt your face with it for years and years and years, and like just play it in sound checks or just constantly like resend an email with an updated version, even though it's the exact same thing you recorded. And he was, you know, obviously we all have different roles in this band and kind of pick up the mantle at different times, but Max is definitely the guy that will, when we're making a body of work, he'll go out on a limb and try and have, you know, like a bunch of ideas ready. So yeah, he had Nice to Me, and got to the end of the recording process, and he was like, guys, we still haven't recorded this song that I think should be really cool. And now that the record's taking shape, like, you know, we had at that point, I think we'd recorded songs like Make Me Feel Alive, Voicenotes, Finish What I Started. So there was like that sort of like big rock sounding stuff as well as us flexing our muscles on the way. So yeah, he basically, one day I was swimming in the pool, and he came and sat down, was like, I really want us to push that we do this song tonight, that we start the song tonight. And I was like, if we do it, do you promise just to stop talking about it? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, right, okay. So we started tracking it, and to be honest, it was one of those songs that his gut was right. Like, when we started actually recording it and laying stuff down for it, we were like, okay, this could actually be a really important song on the record, and so much so that we should start the album with it. So yeah, a lot of fun to put together, and really lyrically there's a really nice kind of thing about it, in which when they were tracking guitars, I think Max was doing his guitars one night, I just went in with my phone and was just chilling in the room, and I don't know what happened, but like that day before, he'd been telling me a lot about why he wrote the music he'd written, what he was thinking about, you know, the stuff he was going through, and like he had this vision of a chase. And at the same time as him talking about this almost like a car chase, I was explaining to him that I've been watching O.J. Simpson versus the People, and so like I just started getting this image in my head of like Max's story, but O.J. Simpson in a white Ford Bronco going down the highway in Los Angeles. And I was like, for whatever reason, obviously the O.J. Simpson thing doesn't really have too much to do with the song, to be honest. It's just one line of the song that kind of name checks him. But I then started living inside Max's head, and like all these words just started falling out of me. And I think I wrote all the lyrics to the song in about 15-20 minutes, and just kind of was like, right, whenever you're done putting something down on this, I'm ready to go. So yeah, it was, and then obviously like the middle eight is a part of the record that, you know, we just felt quite vintage You Me at 6, and we haven't really been that angry on a song for a while, so we enjoyed doing that as well. Yeah, Make Me Feel Alive is just a song's full of energy, right? And like I remember being at Dan's house July 2019. We were kind of in the middle of doing festivals, and he was like, yo, Max came over yesterday, and we had this riff, and we put this thing together. And I was just floored by it. Like, I was sitting with Matt and Chris and was like, oh, what, we haven't done anything like this for a while, and like, or maybe ever. And we started talking about all these artists that we loved. And I think, you know, the Prodigy came up, and how important we feel like Keith Flint had been to music, really, and like the Prodigy in general, as a band that, you know, was kind of genre mashers, to be honest, and they kind of lived in their own space. And so we're talking a lot about, you know, how we could maybe present this to people, and then we were trying to be really clever with it. And then at some point, someone's like, it's a punk song, like, let it be a punk song. And I don't know, like, when we were recording in Thailand, I remember all of us like unanimously being like, this should be the first song that people hear. Like, I know people heard What's It Like around Reading, but in terms of we're announcing we've got a record coming out and all that sort of stuff, Make Me Feel Alive kind of like puts to bed any sort of the kind of these murmurs that You Me at Six are just soft and like, or have gone soft permanently or whatever. And like, it's just a massive fuck you, to be honest, that whole song. And I think it was important for us to put it out first, because we'd all at this point done what, March till pretty much when the song came out in lockdown or some, you know, some equivalent of it. And we just, if it had been up to me, that song would have come out in April or May of last year, you know, because I was like, I think people need this song right now because it's getting me out of bed. It's making me feel better. It's making me understand my frustrations with the world, both like environmentally, politically, socially, it's fucking pandemic, whatever. And like, yeah, I was kind of like hell bent on that song coming out, you know, last spring. And again, in the end, we held on to it for a bit longer, but we just felt, yeah, it's just an important song to come early. And it kind of sets the tone for the record, you know, that like with What's It Like and Make Me Feel Alive, you don't really know what You Me at Six are going to give you. And we'd made a few remarks about how this record was our heaviest since Sinners, and we kind of wanted to back that up early on, so people, you know, didn't think we were just saying it for like clickbait or whatever. So yeah, felt like the right thing to do. Yeah, I mean, that Beautiful Way, originally the song was kind of, the chorus was like halftime and was like really ploddy and like, I don't know, just lacked energy. And when we were in the studio, we were like, we've got to find a way of ramping that up. And there was a little bit of trepidation, I guess, about, you know, having a drum and bass rhythm section in a You Me at Six song on a chorus. But we just kind of came to the conclusion that, like, you know, it gave the song what it needed. It gave it that bounce. It gave it that pop. And, you know, we actually toned what we started off with and what we ended up with. We toned it down massively just to make sure that it, you know, both sort of parts complemented one another. But yeah, definitely I feel like it's already been a really important song on this record for us. And I think it will continue to be that. And I think, you know, by the time we get back into the live setting, it's definitely a song that, you know, I mean, the whole idea behind this record was across the board, it having more energy than maybe some of the records we've put out in the last few years. But like, we wanted this to be a live record that you can hear it, you can dance around your house, and you can imagine yourself being in a venue or in a field with all your mates moshing about, so, and singing and screaming these words. So yeah, Beautiful Way, I think, is gonna be a big song for us in our set for sure. What are you doing right now? Well, really, I mean, this one's a weird one because it kind of came from just a place of boredom, to be honest. Dan and I it was about sort of like, I don't know, 11, 10:30 at night, and the other guys that we sort of had dinner, and the other guys had gone into track guitars for the night. So we pretty much knew that us two weren't really doing anything, and we could have just as easily done something else and got some bars or whatever. But I was like, let's just make a change, see what happens. And he had a chord progression, which is the chord progression you hear at the beginning of the song. And I was like, it's weird because I feel like I have stuff already on my laptop that's in this key. And so I went and got my laptop, and we just started basically sharing our song, our individual songs that both come from different places. And we were like, let's just let's just see what happens here. Let's not. We weren't even making a You Me at Six song, I don't think. We were just like making a song. And yeah, this is probably the song on the record that really, you know, puffs the chest when it comes to that sort of R&B, hip hop mashing with rock music. And, you know, I think it's obviously we're renowned for being a rock band, and then we also have like this real love and appreciation for the genres of R&B and hip hop, and kind of like, how could we integrate that into our music tastefully and organically, and it be like sophisticated? Because at the moment there's a lot of like emo rappers, I guess is the way to describe them, which is totally cool. I'm all here for it. But like, we wanted to do our own thing without it just feeling like we were jumping on that, you know? And yeah, so that song really kind of took a life of its own, and it got to about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. The other guys came out of the other studio and came to Dan's room, and we were like, we wrote the whole song, everything was done, and we were like, we want to record this properly tomorrow. Recorded it the next day, and then it just kept on having like little moments of like refining, you know, like we just kept on like adding bits, taking bits away for the next few weeks. But what you hear is basically what we wrote in this like pretty, what's the word, intoxicated situation. Me and Dan just both having a laugh in Thailand, making some music, and that's what you're doing right now. Is and yeah. Yes, I feel like Sucker Punch really truly embodies like the spirit of this record. So much so we named the album after the song, sort of thing. And yeah, it's a crazy one, to be honest, because me and Max were in the studio about a week before we were on our way to Thailand. And I've been sitting on this riff, like the sort of and I've been playing on like basically I've been making a voice note for about 2 or 3 years ago on literally just like an acoustic guitar, and I was like, oh, this is quite indie, you know, and I was like, I can't use that sort of thing. Anyway, Max and I were in this session and we were writing, and I don't know, we had like a sort of a 30-45 second clip, and it was our last day of pre-production, and we were literally packing up the studio to go to the airport, and Dan Austin was like, is there anything else? Has anybody got anything else they want to bring to the table? And we were like, well, we've got this clip, but we don't really know if you guys will get on board with it or not. And we played it to everybody, and they're like, right, okay, well, we need to do that as soon as we get there. And then really it was kind of like, then I think the main part of that song was how do we present this? How do we execute this to like the people that are going to hear it? Because if it goes too far one way, if it goes too far dance or too far rock, it loses what the mission statement of that song was, which was to kind of like, you know, I don't know, like again, like just try and bring those two worlds together and it not feel like forced. So that took a lot of refining, a lot of like, also a lot of trust in Dan Austin, because he's mental. Like what he can do is crazy. He's the most talented person I think we've ever worked with. And like, he was like, look, this one's tricky. Like, we're struggling this one, but we just need to keep going for it. And for ages, we didn't have the chorus either. So it was literally just verse pre, and like we didn't have a proper, the proper big sort of hands in the air moment chorus. So it was a bit of a headache, to be honest, this song. And we just kept on like re-recording parts because we just wanted it to be perfect sonically. And yeah, I think the reason that we ended up, as I said, naming the record Sucker Punch, was because we felt like this song, and then even if you like delve into like the lyrics of like, I Rise and the Records You Left Behind, like we're talking about something that was maybe individual, personal, but then it really became like our collective like mantra throughout the record, which was like, we're coming back here, and no fear, we're just going to go for it. And again, I think that song really showcases You Me at Six, making music with zero fear, with the handbrake off sort of thing. So yeah, Kill the Mood's like one of Max Hallier's I'm going to play this in soundcheck every day specials. So he's just playing the chords and the guitar for, I don't know, maybe 3 years. And so, yeah, we were on tour in America. We were playing a show in Los Angeles, and me and him felt really kind of like inclined to go to the studio, be in the studio and do something rather than just chilling. So we did that, and we were only in the studio maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours. We weren't there for very long. And he was like, look, because we haven't got a lot of time, but these guys are really cool. Like, let's just like use parts we've already got. So Max like, I've got some chords we can do. And yeah, he kind of like, when we were talking about it, he was like, I want to do something that feels like the Beatles meets Black Sabbath meets Kendrick Lamar. And I was like, I don't really know what that looks like. But there's only one way to find out, mate. So let's roll the dice. And again, that's kind of what happened. And it's bringing in, you know, contemporary sounds and things that we listen to now, and stuff that we were brought up on by our parents, you know, in the likes of those artists I just name check. So I remember actually taking it to the venue and taking it to the lads and playing it to them backstage at the venue, and like, no one was really that arsed. They're like, yeah, it's kind of cool, mate, like, but whatever. And plus, we got a show in LA tonight. Like, we're not trying to talk about making an album right now. But yeah, again, we kind of just sort of stuck at it. And I don't even know if we didn't actually record Kill the Mood in Thailand. I think that was one of the songs that we did elsewhere. I think we might have done some additional production, maybe some more vocals, but yeah, that song kind of just like, it had to take its time again, because we just had to keep on finessing it, keep kind of bringing it to a place that it didn't go too far, you know, one way or the other. If we didn't embrace like that sort of hip hop side to it, and that sort of LA swag, I guess, that we got from, you know, working with these guys and being in the studio, then like, I don't know if it would have come out the way it did. But and then obviously if we went too far, like down the Sabbath route, it might have been too heavy. So yeah, I think it's a song that both like Max and I in particular like really, really like. And hopefully it's not just because we wrote it, but I think like it's just got a lot of charm to it. And then the great thing about You Me at 6 is that it doesn't matter who brings the idea or which people have the initial idea. Like, there's so much trust there that I knew that when we were in the studio, that everybody just wanted to bring that idea that Max and I had to life and do it justice. So, you know, you have Chris Miller at the end of the song, just absolutely ripping one. Do you know what I mean? And like, that to me, like, he's bringing then his influences of blues and his love of blues music. And, you know, and for me, that's what makes our synergy so like potent, in terms of there's only us five could be in You Me at 6, if that makes sense. And yeah, Kill the Mood again, I think, is a nice like little soundbite for that. Yeah, so basically this is just a song that I've been writing the guitar, and I had like some melodies and some like mumble melodies I wrote in my basement, and just one day just went to I think we were rehearsing for a festival or something, and I just like picked up the guitar and started playing it. And I can't remember who was in the room, but they were like, we should get everyone else in here and you should keep singing that and keep playing that and just play it to everybody. And they were like, what's that for? I was like, well, I guess us, like, if you want to use it. And then I was like, look, but if we're going to do it, do you mind if I kind of like direct it a little bit and like not tell you what to play, but tell you the way I can hear it going. And then if it works out nice and feels good, then run with it. And if not, then we can go backwards and start again. But it was crazy, man. We literally, I showed the lads where I was playing, what I was playing. I think we jammed it 3 times, went, cool, that's the song. And then the next time we played it was we went to Thailand. And I think again, I think they did 1 or 2 run-throughs as a band just to make sure that everyone knew what they were doing, and Dan started doing drums in it. So it wasn't like, for a song that already seems to have quite a lot of legs and a lot of eyes on it, and people kind of be like, oh, you know, that hit me in the feel sort of thing. It wasn't a very measured like decision-making process. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't overthought. We literally jammed that song 3 or 4 times and then recorded it. So, and maybe that's why it feels raw, you know, like a lot of what happened on that song in the studio was just instinct, you know, like there wasn't like even Max's like solo at the end of the song, if you want to call it so, like he did it a few times. That was it. He wasn't sitting there for hours trying to work out a solo part to it. He was just like, he literally turned around to me like, this song reminds me of Oasis. I'm going to do an Oasis sounding solo. I was like, sweet, you should do that. If that's what you want to do, you should do it. And then like, Chewy would be like, I think we can sort of add in this kind of programming and make it feel kind of like, sort of like the sort of early 2000s emo slow songs, if that makes sense. Like the stuff that we got listened to when the bands that we love did a slow song, it kind of felt like that. And yeah, it's just like a really like interesting mishmash. And Dan Austin wasn't privy to some of these conversations, so he's kind of just like recording it and putting it together with his own interpretation. So everyone's soul is in that song, if that makes sense, like their musical souls. But without any conversations and without any run-throughs, it's just like, this is what happens when we all instinctively like roll the dice on something. And I think being totally transparent with the boys and telling them, what the song's about, and just playing it and owning it and being like, it comes from a sad place, but like, it's not a sad song, I think that's the whole point of music. I think when it's done well is you can make a bad situation have a nice ending and feel like a good one. So I feel like there's a resolve in that as well. Adrenaline, I mean, what can I say about Adrenaline? Really, I feel like this is a tune that Matt and Chris have been working on again since even before we recorded Six. Like they would been writing and recording this song for so long, and I don't know why it took us so long to record it, to be honest with you. And I think because that's happened quite a lot on this record, I feel like these songs have only surfaced and made it onto this album, so it could be this album, if that makes sense. Like I don't think Adrenaline works on Six. I don't think Finish What I Started will work on Six. I think if we like maybe put a song like Back Again on this record, it wouldn't work. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like all these songs are kind of turned up to the party at the same time on the same night, and I think Adrenaline is just like, for us, is just I guess a more like classic You Me at Six sounding song. I feel like it's really got the DNA of what we think a good song is from us anyway. And it's a big big chorus. And then I think, the mid-late is probably one of my favorite parts on the record. It kind of reminds me of like, I don't know, like maybe even like Biffy Clyro to an extent, like it's got that sort of like off the beaten path sort of sound, where like it's not on the grid, it goes a bit off. And yeah, it's just our interpretation of a big rock song, and it's a really important song again, because I guess like lyrically it's also just kind of, tearing myself apart. And I think I've done that on every song on this record, but this one is really just kind of like, I spent a lot of time going to therapy, and one of the things that kind of came to the conclusion on was that I definitely have like codependency issues. And so I like the idea of like this split personality, and I think that's kind of that's the overview, and that's what I'm talking about in this song. And yeah, and I guess like one part of my life is being this dude who feels like he has imposter syndrome and isn't really a dude in the band. And then the other side of it is, now I am, and I love to take it too far sometimes. So yeah, and when you put those two, this really unconfident, uncomfortable, anxiety-ridden person, and you mashing with this person that like rolls around the stage trying to dominate and control a crowd, and you put them together, that's kind of, that's who I become. So that's what Adrenaline's about. And yeah, it's a proud moment on the record, I think, for quite a few of us. Voicenotes, this song like was really challenging because Max had the intro part to it, and he had a riff, which is what you hear, but the way you guys hear it is you hear it chopped up. It's like almost call and response from Max and Chris versus one person playing the progression. It's like dun 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 dun. I don't want to get into it with them about how they're going to do that one live. They have to figure that one out real quick. but because it's just like it's got to be like spot on, because if one person misses the call and response bit, it's gonna go Pete Tong. But yeah, and I think by not just being one person playing the progression, it kind of took away from like the, I don't know, we didn't want it to be too rock. We wanted it to feel rock without it being just big loud guitars, you know, and there's nothing wrong with big loud guitars, but that's not all we were after on this song. And yeah, so the bass is really the driving force of that song. And Matt spent a lot of time kind of putting that together and making sure that, again, like it had that drive and that fuzz, but without it just being like, you know, a wall of sound, so to speak. But yeah, and it just took a long time, to the point where like whenever I'd hear Max utter the words, "Should we have another crack at voice notes?" I'd be like, I'm leaving the room for a bit, and just, you know, I'll come, give me a shout in 2 hours time when you've got nowhere and we can do something else. And you know, God bless him, like he's relentless. He's like, no, we will find a way of making it happen. And again, like I think Dan Flint's interpretation of this song is really cool, because, you know, it's not big open drums. It's almost like, you know, everything's really tight and on the grid. And like, I think having that again helped us get the point across without it being something that you have just basically heard us do on other records. So that was trying to, again, showcase our stuff that we know is familiar and we know that people like about our band, but how can we make it feel that little bit foreign? So they're like, oh, I haven't had them do it this way before. That's exciting. So Voice Notes, I think, really does kind of, again, like, it is one of those songs that, you know, you've heard You Me at Six do that. In particular, you've heard us do it on Sinners, but I like to think that we've given it enough of a twist that it's not too familiar. It's boring, basically. Finish What I Started is a song that I didn't think was ever going to get released, to be honest, mainly because we have been sitting on this song since 2017, when we wrote it on tour in Germany. And I think when I was showing the lads, like the mindset I was in that time was one that was very sort of vulnerable and in quite a lot of pain, to be honest. And I think I remember that when I was like showing them my parts and like singing in the dressing room, they were like, "Oh, we at that age and that point in our lives, we didn't know how to have these conversations with each other." And it wasn't because we didn't want to; we just didn't know how to, like, go, "What do you mean that you want to kill yourself? Like, what do you mean by that? And how do we have that conversation?" And so I guess that song was a lifeline for me, because being able to sing it, I didn't have to like get pissed one night and break down and tell them. Do you know what I mean? So it was like the and again, that's music. Music can be a vehicle to take things that feel so complicated and just make them really simple. And and we sat on this song for so long, maybe in part because maybe people didn't want to push it for it to come out, because maybe they didn't know if I wanted it to come out. People were worried about me, you know, not wanting it to come out in case I didn't mean it or I didn't want, you know, because I think there is a stigma, and there's definitely like even though there's nothing about it that is shameful, there is something quite people find it very uncomfortable to hear other people tell them that they don't like themselves at all, you know, like it's not an easy conversation to have. And I think that's why I felt, you know, especially as the record was really starting to take shape, I was like, this is the record this song goes on, like it has to be this record. And because it's such a recovery record for us, and it's such like a renaissance for us as well. And I've used that word in the past about our band, but I really believe it on this one, and I mean it wholeheartedly. And I feel that, like, you know, Finish What I Started will become a song that I hope that our fans can lean on in the same way that I did, you know, and you know, because of that song, I've had to have some conversations with, not had to, but it's provoked conversations with people in my life and close in my life who have heard it, been like, so are we going to talk about it or what, you know? And that's just a really positive thing. And yeah, for me, it's a massively important song. I wouldn't even say it's not like my favorite track on the record, but for me, it's the most like powerful thing that that could have happened with this song is it coming out in the way it is, and it kind of saying what it's saying. So yeah, hopefully if there's anybody out there that feels either a little bit or really fucking lost and vulnerable or scared or hopeless or whatever, that they can listen to that song and be reminded that like it's a journey. It's going to take time to feel better. You know, it's taken me probably 4 or 5 years to get to a point where I really feel good and healthy in the mind. So, and it's always going to be a work in progress. But yeah, the sentiment of finish what I started is mainly referring to, you know, stuff not ending prematurely, you know, like, and making sure that I'm here for as long as, you know, hopefully till I'm in my like 90s or something, and I've got grandchildren and I'm showing them this song. that's the dream. So yeah, well, that's the point. Yeah, to stay hopeful for as long as possible. You know, really, this song kind of got rushed to be put out, in terms of it didn't. Like we put this song together around about the time we were rehearsing for the Tape of Colours dates and the touring we were doing in 2018. We recorded this song, and I don't know. At first I was like, because it was an idea that Dan came up with, and we were very much the opinion that it was like, he even referred to it as like this is a mess about song. I'm gonna, you know, try and take it to like Travis Scott or, you know, somebody of that kind of thing, where it's not a You Me at 6 song. And when I heard it, I was like, we have to find a way of us inhabiting this song and owning it. Like, there's got to be a way that we can live in this space. And there was a lot, because this is why this song has been put on the record, because it's a real turning point for us psychologically, because we were like, we have to try this. It doesn't mean it's going to be flawless. It doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect. But if we try it, people will respect the bravery of it, even if we don't pull it off 100%. And I think I said to you before, like I've had so many of my mates in other bands, my peers, or like people that I know from the industry, or even like just friends and family, really been like, you've got our attention. Like, what's going on with this? What's going on with this song? You know, and I think that it set the tone really to go off and make the record, which was okay, fuck it. We do what we want, uncompromised, and the rest will take care of itself. So, you know, and like you said, it's the only time we've been able to play live from the record, and perhaps maybe for some time it will be the only one we can play live. We'll see. But, you know, we rushed to get it out in August, because we were like August of 2019, because we were so desperate to play it at Reading that we were like, oh man, we've got to play a song at Reading, we've got to play it at Leeds, like it'll be massive, it'll be so much fun, and like people should be like, is that You Me 6 on stage, and what the fuck's that? Like we need to, you know, sometimes you're like, things line up and we're like, it has to go down this way. So pushed and pushed and pushed, and I remember we first played it for the first time in Moscow. We had a headline show in Russia, and I remember like standing out in the venue whilst we were like sound checking. I was like, fucking hell, that sounds really heavy, because there's no guitars on this record. And then when we play it live, it's like laced in like just big baritone nasty guitars, so it sounds really fucking heavy when we play it. And it's like it's unintentionally heavy, which is kind of, I guess, what makes it even cooler. So yeah, I remember that night, just like, we've never been to Rush before either, so what's it like to have played live before, and we've never played there live before, and it was just like, that song was like the pinnacle of the set. You know, it was crazy. It's like, I was like, what is going on in here? And we played the next night, we headlined a festival in Kiev, because Nightwish pulled out, so that was cool. So you can imagine what we were walking into, and that was one of the biggest songs in the set. You know, nobody had heard it, but I think it's got this thing where like it just gets you going. I don't really, you know, well, I do know what it is, but I don't know why it does it to other people. And then yeah, Reading and Leeds was just so beautiful to do that song there as well. So it's like, it's almost a song in the set that when we have played it, I'm not even really thinking about what I'm singing or saying. I'm just trying to build people up for that. So what's it like? Do, 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 do. Like everything else is, who gives a fuck? It's just about getting to that point. And I want that, you know, that song in our sets to be a massive, massive coming together, and people just, everyone losing their nut. And I think it has a potential to do that. So I'm looking forward to having a chance to play that song more and more. And yeah. There you go.